I used to believe family meant forever. That no matter how messy life got, blood would still mean something. But that illusion shattered on the day my own family turned their backs on me, and worse, on my daughter Hazel. It started like any other Saturday morning. Hazel had been counting down to her birthday for weeks. She'd wake me up every day with the same question. Mom, how many sleeps left until my party? Her excitement was contagious. I'd been working extra shifts, scraping together every dollar to make sure her day felt special. She wasn't asking for much, just balloons, a small cake, and the people she loved most. Family. That word used to mean comfort to me. My sister, my parents, my cousins, we were always close, at least on the surface. We had our fights, but who doesn't? Underneath it all, I thought we were solid. I thought wrong. When I sent the invites for Hazel's birthday, the replies were slow at first. Then came the excuses. Oh, that weekend's a bit busy. Can we maybe do a later celebration? One by one, they started dropping out. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe it was bad timing. Maybe people were tired. But deep down, something didn't feel right. There was a tone in their messages, polite, distant, almost rehearsed. Like they were avoiding me. Still, Hazel's smile made me push through. I told her, even if it's just us, baby, we're going to have the best day ever. And she believed me. That's the thing about kids, they trust you with their whole heart. The day of the party came. The balloons were up. The cake sat on the counter, chocolate with rainbow sprinkles, Hazel's favorite. She was dressed in her little yellow dress, her hair tied with a ribbon that matched the decorations. She kept running to the window every few minutes. Are they here yet, Mom? I'd smile and say, any minute now. But as the hours passed, any minute turned into maybe later. By 6 p.m., it was just the two of us. The candles melted into tiny puddles of wax. The food got cold. And Hazel stopped asking if anyone was coming. She just sat there staring at the empty chairs, her tiny hands folded in her lap. Then she whispered, Did I do something wrong? That question broke me. Because how do you explain betrayal to a child? How do you tell her that sometimes it's not her fault? It's theirs? I took her hand, pulled her close, and said, No, Hazel, you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes people forget what love really means. That night, after I put her to bed, I sat in the kitchen staring at my phone. Not one message. Not one apology. Not even from my sister, Clara, the one who'd promised she'd bring the gifts and the cake topper Hazel had picked out together. Instead, silence. The kind of silence that screams louder than words. I should have known it wasn't over. Because 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a message that would start everything. The chaos, the betrayal, and the kind of revenge I never thought I'd seek. The message was from Clara. Short, cold, calculated. Hey, Nora, I need you to send $1,850 for the catering deposit I lost because of your party plans. You made me cancel my booking, remember? Just transfer it today, please. I read it 3 times before it sank in. She'd skipped Hazel's birthday, lied about being busy, and now she was demanding money. I typed out a dozen replies, deleted each one. My hands were shaking. My heart raced. Not from fear, but disbelief. I finally wrote back, You didn't even show up, Clara. Why would I owe you anything? Her reply came fast. You said we'd use my caterer, and I blocked that date. I lost money because of you. Be an adult and pay me back. That was the moment something inside me shifted. I'd spent my whole life being the peacekeeper, the one who apologized first, who tried to make everyone comfortable. But that day, staring at her message, I realized peacekeepers are just people others use for target practice. So I replied, No, just one word. And with that single word, I started a war I didn't see coming because Clara didn't let it go. She doubled down, sent voice notes, then threats. Until one morning, there was a knock on my door, and 2 uniformed officers standing on my porch. Hazel peeked from behind me holding her teddy bear. I'll never forget her face and the confusion, the fear. Ma'am, one of the officers said, we received a report about a financial dispute. Clara Jennings claims you owe her $1,850. My jaw dropped. She called the police? He nodded. We just need your side of the story. My side? If only they knew the truth. How the woman accusing me was the same one who'd broken my little girl's heart just days earlier. That was the day everything changed. The day I realized my family wasn't family anymore. And that sometimes, justice doesn't come from forgiveness. It comes from truth, exposed in the harshest light possible. They thought they could humiliate me, corner me, break me. But they forgot something important. I don't fight loud. I fight smart. And this time, I wasn't backing down. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said Clara was my best friend. Not just my sister, my confidant, my partner in everything. We grew up sharing secrets under the blanket, sneaking midnight snacks, dreaming about futures that somehow always included each other. She was the loud one, the risk taker, the center of attention at every family gathering. And me? I was the quiet one, the listener, the fixer, the one who stayed behind cleaning up after everyone else's chaos. That balance used to work, until I started saying no. Looking back, I can see it now, the small cracks that had been forming long before Hazel's birthday. It began when I bought my house, a small 2-bedroom place on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but mine. Clara had just gone through a breakup, and I offered her my spare room until she got back on her feet. I didn't set a time limit. I just said, stay as long as you need. It turned into 7 months. At first, it was fine. She helped with groceries, played with Hazel, even called herself Hazel's favorite aunt. But over time, things started shifting. She'd invite friends over without asking. Borrow my clothes. Criticize how I parented Hazel. You're too soft on her, Nora. Kids need tough love. I'd laugh it off, try to keep peace. But one night I found Hazel crying in her room. When I asked why, she said Clara had yelled at her for spilling juice on the carpet. Not just yelled and screamed. I confronted Clara that night. She rolled her eyes. God, you're dramatic. I was just teaching her to be responsible. That was Clara's favorite word, responsible. She used it like a weapon, as if she was the authority on how I should live, raise my child, and spend my money. The tension only grew from there. When she finally moved out, she left without saying thank you. Just a text. Appreciate the stay. I'll send over my new address if you ever need me. And I should have known then that if you ever need me was never meant sincerely. Months passed. Hazel and I built routines again. Quiet breakfasts, bedtime stories, laughter that didn't echo with judgment. I thought the worst was over. Until Clara's new life started to unravel. She'd bragged about her new catering business, Clara's Creations. Social media posts, big promises, fancy photos. But behind the filters, she was drowning in debt. I didn't know it at the time. I found out later, when she called me in tears, saying she'd lost her biggest client and needed a loan. She said it wasn't much. Just $800, Nora. I'll pay you back next month. And I did it. Because that's who I was, the dependable one. The one who couldn't stand to see anyone, especially family, fall apart. But months went by. No repayment. No updates. Just silence until I asked about it gently and she exploded. God, you're obsessed with money. You think you're better than me now? That argument created the invisible line we never crossed again, not until Hazel's birthday brought it all crashing back. So when she texted me about that 1-850 loss, it wasn't just about the money. It was about control, about power, about a woman who hated seeing her little sister finally stand up for herself. But Clara didn't work alone. She had allies, my parents. Mom always said, you two need each other. But what she really meant was, keep Clara happy. Because whenever Clara was upset, everyone suffered. After the police visit, Mom called me. Her voice was tight, the kind she used when she was trying to sound calm but was really angry. Nora, I just got off the phone with Clara. She's heartbroken. Why didn't you just settle this quietly? I was stunned. Settle this? She called the cops on me, Mom. Yes, but she said you provoked her. You know how sensitive she gets. Sensitive. That word again. I almost laughed. It was always my job to protect Clara's feelings, but no one ever protected mine. Mom, I said slowly, Hazel cried herself to sleep because no one showed up. And now Clara's trying to make me the villain? There was a pause. Then, don't drag Hazel into this. She doesn't need to see family drama. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. Because in that moment I realized I'd never really had a family. I'd just been the emotional punching bag for theirs. That night, after I tucked Hazel into bed, I sat on the porch and replayed everything in my head. Every favor, every sacrifice, every time I'd chosen silence over confrontation. The next morning, I woke up to see my name on a Facebook post. Clara had written a long, dramatic story, claiming I'd manipulated her business, refused to pay debts, and played the victim while hurting family, and people believed her. Comments poured in, friends, cousins, even distant relatives siding with her. Can't believe Nora would do that. Wow, family over money, always. You're too kind, Clara. Don't let her walk over you. My hands trembled as I scrolled. Hazel peeked at the screen and asked softly, Mom, why are people saying mean things about you? I locked my phone and smiled weakly. Sometimes people believe lies, sweetheart. But the truth always finds a way out. I wanted to believe that. But the truth felt small compared to the noise Clara was making. And for the first time in my life, I realized if I didn't speak up, if I didn't fight back, Hazel would grow up thinking this was normal. That kindness means silence. That family can hurt you and you just accept it. No, not this time. So, I began collecting everything. Texts, messages, old emails, receipts from the catering deposit she claimed to have lost. Every lie she'd spun, I traced it back to the truth. And the more I dug, the more I uncovered. Not just her lies about me, but lies she'd told others. People she'd scammed, clients she'd ghosted. Even one who had messaged her public page saying, "You ruined my event and never refunded me." It was all there, hidden in plain sight. And for the first time, I felt something I hadn't in a long while. Power. Clara had taken my kindness for weakness. But what she didn't realize was that I'd learned from her too. How to play her game. Only this time I was going to play smarter. I wasn't looking for revenge, not yet. I just wanted the truth. But sometimes exposing the truth is revenge. Family can turn cold in a heartbeat. And when they do, the silence they leave behind becomes a kind of fire. It burns quietly, until it doesn't. And when it finally ignites, there's no going back. When you love someone long enough, you start to ignore the warning signs. You tell yourself, they didn't mean it, or she's just upset. You make excuses, hoping love will fix what's already broken. But betrayal doesn't whisper. It screams in your face and dares you to deny it. After Clara's Facebook post, things spiraled faster than I could control. I thought people would reach out, ask for my side of the story. They didn't, they just believed her. My phone stopped ringing. The group chats went silent. Even my parents, the ones who used to call every Sunday to check on Hazel, started avoiding my calls, Hazel noticed. Kids always notice? Grandma didn't say goodnight again? She asked one evening, clutching her stuffed bear. I smiled faintly. She must be busy, baby, but I knew the truth. They weren't busy. They were choosing to believe Clara's story. I tried to stay strong for Hazel. But there's a specific kind of pain that comes when you realize the people who raised you are now siding with the person trying to destroy you. A week later, Clara showed up at my door, unannounced, uninvited. Her car idled in the driveway like a warning light. When I opened the door, she smiled. That practiced, fake smile she used when she wanted something. "Nora," she said smoothly. "Can we talk?" Every instinct told me to shut the door. But I didn't. I stepped aside and let her in. She glanced around my small living room like she was inspecting a crime scene. "I see you finally fixed the curtains," she said. "Took you long enough." I ignored the jab. "What do you want, Clara?" She sighed dramatically. "This whole situation has gotten out of hand. The police report, the posts. None of this had to happen if you'd just been reasonable." "Reasonable?" I repeated, my voice sharp. "You demanded $1,850 for something that never happened, Clara. You ghosted your niece's party. You humiliated me online. And now you're standing here talking about being reasonable?" Her eyes narrowed. "You made me do it." "You've always made me look like the bad guy," I laughed bitterly. "Clara, you don't look like the bad guy. You are the bad guy." Her face twisted, the mask slipping for just a second. Then she leaned closer. "You'll regret saying that." And just like that, she walked out, heels clicking against the porch, her car engine roaring as she sped away. I stood there in the doorway, shaking. Not from fear and from fury, the kind that doesn't fade, the kind that sinks deep. 2 days later, my boss called me into his office. He looked uneasy, which was strange. He was usually calm, steady, the kind of man who didn't flinch easily. "Nora," he began carefully, "I got a call from someone claiming you were under investigation for fraud." I froze. "What?" She said you'd been reported to the police for financial misconduct and that your name was connected to some family dispute. I don't believe it, but corporate HR might. It took me a full second to realize who it was. Clara. She hadn't just gone after my reputation, she'd come for my job. I left the office that day feeling hollow. My mind raced, not about losing the job, but about how far she was willing to go just to make me bend. That night, I sat at the kitchen table after Hazel went to bed, scrolling through Clara's social media again. She was posting happy pictures, dinner parties, wine glasses, fake smiles, all while I was barely sleeping. Every photo had a caption like, "Some people pretend to be victims. I choose peace." Peace, the same word she used after every storm she caused. But then, I saw something else. A comment under one of her posts. A woman wrote, "You did the same thing to me last year. Took my deposit, blamed me, and blocked my number. Karma always circles back." My heart started racing. I clicked the profile, found a public post from months ago. A long, angry thread about Clara's catering company taking money and never delivering services. There were screenshots, texts, invoices, even emails with Clara's signature. It wasn't just me. She'd been doing this to others too. For the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Because now I had proof. I sent the woman a message. "Hi, I'm Nora Vale. I think we've both been through something similar. Can we talk?" She replied almost instantly. "God, you're not the first one." She did this to 3 of us. We were planning to file a complaint, but she scared everyone off. Scared everyone off. That phrase stayed with me. Because that's exactly what Clara had done my whole life. Scare people into silence. But not this time. A few days later, I gathered everything. Screenshots, receipts, voice notes, the woman's testimony. I organized them in folders labeled neatly, not because I was ready to go to war, but because I needed to see it. To remind myself I wasn't crazy, that the lies weren't my imagination, then I got an idea. A quiet one. Simple. Powerful. If Clara wanted to destroy my name publicly, then maybe it was time the public learned the truth. Directly from me. But I wasn't going to post angry rants or messy drama. No, I was going to do what Clara least expected. I was going to tell my story. Calmly, honestly. And with evidence. I drafted a post. "My sister has accused me of owing her what are the $850. She's also called the police. Contacted my workplace and tried to isolate me from my family. I stayed silent because I believed peace was more important than pride. But silence only fuels lies. So here's the truth, with receipts." Then I attached the screenshots. Every message. Every demand. Every contradiction in her own words. And finally, I ended it with this line. "Sometimes the people who talk about peace the loudest are the ones who cause the most pain." I hovered over the post button for almost a full minute. Then I clicked it, and in that moment, something inside me shifted. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting to Clara's chaos. I was taking control of it. The next morning, my phone exploded. Hundreds of messages, comments, reactions. People I hadn't heard from in years reached out, some apologizing, some shocked. Others quietly admitting they'd always suspected something was off about Clara. But the most surprising message came from my mother. "Why would you humiliate your sister like that, Nora?" I stared at the screen. Even now, she couldn't see the truth. That's when it hit me. Clara's manipulation wasn't just clever. It was generational. She had learned it from the very people who were now defending her. And I knew then. I couldn't just clear my name. I had to expose the whole cycle, every layer of hypocrisy that kept people like Clara untouchable. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. Clara wanted war? Then she was about to get one. Only this time, it wouldn't be the kind she could win with words. People think betrayal is a single moment, a cut so sharp you can point to where it began. But that's not true. Betrayal isn't a knife, it's a slow drip. A series of small silences, avoided questions, and polite smiles that together become a storm. And the worst part? It doesn't always come from your enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people who were sitting right beside you, pretending they didn't see you bleed. The day after I posted my truth online, I woke up to a strange calm. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was suffocating. Hazel was laughing in the kitchen, humming to herself as she buttered her toast. "Mom," she said, "you look happy today." I smiled. "Maybe I am, baby." I wanted to believe that telling the truth had set me free. But freedom, it seemed, had a price. By noon, my phone buzzed with a message from my cousin Jenna. She wrote, "Can we talk? Please don't tell Clara I messaged you." I hesitated before replying. "Sure." When we finally got on the phone, her voice was trembling. "Nora, I'm so sorry. I should have said something sooner." "About what?" I asked, heart pounding. "About Clara. She's been saying things about you for months. To everyone. Before Hazel's party, she told the family you'd been unstable since your divorce, that you were jealous of her business, that you'd tried to sabotage her." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. "What?" She showed fake screenshots, messages she edited. Even Aunt Linda believed her. "That's why no one came to the party. They thought you didn't invite them." The room spun. Every memory of that empty table, every untouched cupcake, and it all made sense now. They thought? I didn't invite them? Clara told everyone you uninvited them. She said you wanted a private party because you couldn't afford a big one. I felt sick. Not just because of the lies, but because no one had questioned them. Not one person had picked up the phone to ask, "Is that true, Nora?" Not one, Jenna's voice cracked. I wanted to call, but Mom said to stay out of it. Everyone said it was between sisters. Between sisters. That phrase hit me like a punch. Because that's what everyone always said when Clara did something cruel. It's between sisters. Like it was some private battlefield that I was supposed to survive quietly. That night, I sat in the dark after Hazel went to bed, scrolling through family photos on my phone. Birthdays, holidays, weddings, all the moments that used to mean something. Now they just felt like scenes from a lie I didn't know I was living. I remembered Mom's words from days before. Don't drag Hazel into family drama. And I finally understood what she really meant. Don't make us uncomfortable with your truth. It wasn't just Clara. They all chose comfort over honesty. Silence over loyalty, and that silence? It hurt more than Clara's lies ever could. A few days later, I went to visit my parents. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to look them in the eye and hear it for myself. Mom opened the door with that strained smile she used when pretending everything was fine. "Nora," she said softly, "I didn't expect you." "I needed to talk," I replied. Dad was in the living room, reading the newspaper, or pretending to. When I sat down, the air grew heavy. "Did you know?" I asked. My voice was calm, too calm. "Did you know Clara told everyone I uninvited them from Hazel's party?" Mom's eyes darted away. Dad folded his paper slowly. "We didn't want to get involved," he said. "You two have always had your differences." "Differences?" I laughed bitterly. "She called the police on me, Dad. That's not a difference." "That's destruction," Mom spoke softly. "She was hurt, Nora. She said you embarrassed her." "We just didn't want to choose sides," I stared at her. "You didn't want to choose sides, but you did. You just chose hers." Silence. Then Mom said something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. "Clara just has a stronger personality. You've always been sensitive. We didn't think you could handle more conflict. Sensitive." There it was again. That word that's been used against me since childhood. Every time I cried. Every time I spoke up. Every time I felt. I stood up, my voice trembling but steady. "Do you know what's worse than being sensitive, Mom?" Being silent. "You taught me that silence keeps the peace. But all it ever did was protect the wrong people." Mom looked down. Dad said nothing. I walked out. And this time, I didn't look back. That drive home changed something in me. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't shaking. I was focused. Clarity. That's what betrayal gives you when the shock fades. You stop begging for understanding and start planning for justice. And as I pulled into my driveway, I saw Hazel sitting on the porch steps, coloring in her little notebook. She looked up and smiled. "Mom, look, I drew our family. There were 2 figures on the page, as me and her. Just us." I knelt down beside her and whispered, "It's perfect." Because in that moment, I realized that was our family now. And I wasn't going to let anyone break it again. They thought they'd silenced me. They thought I'd retreat, hide, let the whispers bury me. But betrayal doesn't end a story. It rewrites it. And mine was just beginning. If everyone knew but me, then fine. I'd make sure everyone knew the truth too. Loudly, clearly, and in a way they'd never forget. Because when family betrays you publicly, sometimes the only way to heal is to make the truth public too. You know that moment when pain stops hurting and starts teaching? That's where I was. For weeks, I replayed everything Clara had done. Every lie, every silence, every fake smile from people who claimed to love me, and the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Revenge didn't have to be loud. It just had to be smart. Hazel and I had settled into a peaceful rhythm. Mornings with pancakes and cartoons, evenings with bedtime stories. But while she slept, I was wide awake, planning. I wasn't planning to destroy Clara's life. I was planning to reclaim mine. The first step was simple. Information. Clara ran her boutique, Vale & Co., like a queen running a small kingdom. She had investors, influencers, and a reputation for being the perfect family woman. But I knew that kind of image doesn't come without cracks. And cracks can be widened. I started quietly, following the money. A friend of mine, Ellie, worked in event marketing and had once helped Clara organize her brand launch. One night over coffee, I asked her, "Do you still have Clara's old invoices?" Ellie raised an eyebrow. "Why?" I smiled faintly. "Let's just say I'm learning to read between the lines." A few days later, Ellie sent over a folder, a digital trail of payments, sponsorships, and gifts that Clara had conveniently never declared. Some were under Hazel's party expenses, but labeled as marketing events, which meant Clara had written off my daughter's birthday as a business expense. That wasn't just cold, it was illegal. I sat there, staring at the receipts, and something inside me clicked. Clara had turned my life into her PR stunt. But this time I'd turn her brand into her downfall. Still, I didn't rush. Revenge isn't about rage, it's about rhythm. You wait for the right moment, the right silence, and then you move. The next step? Reputation. I started small. Subtle things that looked like coincidence. I sent anonymous tips to a few of the local mom groups Clara depended on for customers. A few concerned posts about how some boutiques were using fake collaborations and exploiting small vendors. Nothing direct. Just whispers. The same way she'd done it to me, and whispers spread. Fast. Within a week, I saw her brand tagged in a few not-so-flattering threads. Comments like, "I heard she underpays her designers." "Something feels off about her giveaways. She seems fake nice, you know?" Clara's picture-perfect brand started to wobble. Then came phase 3, exposure. I created a private Instagram account called Truth Threads. It wasn't about revenge. It was about receipts. Real screenshots, real evidence, but I didn't post them all at once. I released them like a slow leak, small enough to seem organic, but powerful enough to make people question everything. Each post had a caption that hit like a whisper turning into thunder. What if the family you trusted the most was the one tearing you apart? Sometimes silence is the loudest betrayal. Within days, the account gained traction. People started sharing, guessing, commenting. They didn't know it was me. They just knew the story felt real. And the truth? It was one night Clara called me, her voice sharp, anxious, brittle. "Nora, have you seen what's happening online? Someone's spreading lies about me." I paused, keeping my tone calm. "Lies? Oh no, Clara. That must be awful. Don't act like you don't care. You know people are jealous of me." I let the silence stretch just long enough. Then I said softly, "Maybe they're not jealous. Clara. Maybe they're just finally seeing you clearly." She hung up, and for the first time in years, I slept peacefully. A week later, the cracks became fractures. One of her investors pulled out. Another demanded an audit. Even the local newspaper that once called her the face of family business started asking uncomfortable questions. And through it all, I said nothing. I didn't gloat. I didn't post. I just watched the truth do what it always does. Rise. But the final move, that one wasn't planned. It came from Hazel. One afternoon, I found her writing in her school journal. She looked up and said, "Mom, can I tell you something?" "Of course," I smiled. "I told my teacher about the party," she said softly. She said real family shows up, not just when it's easy. Those words hit me deeper than anything Clara ever said. Real family shows up. That was the lesson. That was the truth I wanted to protect, not revenge, not exposure. Hazel's heart. So I closed my laptop, deleted the Truth Threads account, and whispered to myself, it's done, because revenge had already served its purpose. It wasn't about ruining Clara. It was about reminding myself that I still had power, and that was enough. But life has a funny way of balancing itself. When you stop chasing justice, sometimes it comes looking for you, and what happened next was something even I didn't see coming. There's something strange about the truth. You can bury it for a while, you can hide it under smiles and pretty captions, but one day it finds the light. And when it does, it doesn't whisper. It roars. It started on a Thursday. I was making breakfast when my phone started buzzing nonstop. At first, I ignored it. I'd promised myself I wouldn't look at anything related to Clara anymore, but then Ellie called. Her voice was a mix of shock and curiosity. Nora, are you seeing this? It's everywhere. My heart skipped. What is? Clara, her boutique. Someone leaked the audit reports. I froze. Audit reports? Yeah. Apparently, one of her investors exposed financial manipulation. The receipts, the fake sponsorships? Everything's public now. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Not because I was scared, but because fate had just finished what I started. By noon, every social feed in town was flooded. People weren't whispering anymore. They were pointing. Vale and Coed under investigation. Local? Entrepreneur accused of tax evasion. Behind the brand. How Clara Jennings fooled everyone. It was poetic. The same community she'd used for attention was now dissecting her every move. But the most powerful moment wasn't online. It was in person. That weekend, Hazel and I went to the park, her favorite place. We were sitting on a bench eating ice cream when I heard someone calling my name. I turned, and there she was. Clara. Her hair was messy, eyes swollen, face pale. Gone was the polished, camera-ready version of my sister. In her place stood a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in days. She stopped a few feet away. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt heavy. Years of silence, pride, and unspoken words. Then she said quietly, "They're destroying me, Nora." I didn't move. Didn't say a word. The investors backed out. The boutiques closed. People I thought were my friends, they vanished overnight. Her voice cracked. I know you hated me, but I never thought you'd want this. I met her eyes, steady, calm. I didn't do this, Clara, she blinked. What? I didn't leak anything. I walked away. Then why does it feel like you won? She whispered. That question lingered. Because maybe I had, but not in the way she meant. Hazel tugged my sleeve then. Innocent, unaware of the storm around us. Mom, can we feed the ducks? I smiled softly and nodded. Clara just stood there watching us. And for a fleeting second, I saw something in her expression. Not hatred, not arrogance, but regret. Real, heavy regret. She took a deep breath. You always had the heart I pretended to. Then she turned and walked away. That night, I sat by the window, the city lights flickering below. For the first time in months, I felt, still, it wasn't joy. It wasn't victory. It was closure. The truth had come out, not because I shouted it, but because it couldn't stay hidden anymore. People finally saw Clara for who she was, and I finally saw myself for who I had become. Not a victim. Not a villain. Just a woman who refused to stay silent. The following week, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name, written in Clara's familiar handwriting. Inside was a note that read, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." I forgot what love looked like until I lost it, and taped beside it, a small photograph. Hazel and Clara from a time long before all this, laughing together at a family picnic. I stared at it for a long time. Then, quietly, I placed it in Hazel's keepsake box. Not to remember the pain, but to remember how easily love can turn into something else when pride takes over. They say the truth sets you free. But what they don't tell you is, it also changes you. You learn who you are when the lies fall apart. You learn who still stands beside you when the dust settles. And me? I learned that revenge doesn't always look like fire and fury. Sometimes it looks like peace, because when the truth finally came out, it didn't destroy me. It destroyed the mask they wore, and that in the end was enough. It's strange, isn't it? How the loudest battles we fight aren't the ones with shouting and noise. but the ones fought in silence, inside our hearts. Months have passed since everything happened. Since the police at my door, since Clara's messages, since the truth finally tore through the lies. And you know what? My life is quieter now, simpler, and somehow, that's exactly what I needed. Hazel still asks about Clara sometimes. Kids don't hold grudges the way adults do. They forgive like breathing, easily, naturally. One evening, she looked at me and said, "Mom, can Aunt Clara come to my next birthday?" I paused. That question hit harder than I expected. I didn't want to lie, but I also didn't want her to grow up bitter, so I said softly, "If she wants to come with love in her heart, then yes." Hazel smiled. "Then I hope she does." That's the thing about children. They remind you that even after betrayal, hope doesn't die. It just waits quietly, like a light under all the hurt. I've learned that peace isn't something you find. It's something you choose. Every single day, I choose peace when I let go of anger. I choose peace when I stop explaining myself to people who never cared to understand. And I choose peace when I look at Hazel, her laughter, her innocence, and remember why I fought in the first place. There was a time I thought revenge would make me feel powerful, that seeing Clara lose everything would make me whole again. But the truth? Power didn't come from revenge. It came from walking away with my integrity still intact, from surviving their cruelty without becoming cruel myself. Revenge may give you satisfaction, but forgiveness, even silent, distant forgiveness, gives you freedom. A few weeks ago, I got an invitation. A small handwritten card with familiar handwriting. Hazel's birthday. I hope I can come. It was from Clara. No excuses. No manipulation. Just words, fragile and honest. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel revenge. I just felt done. Because healing doesn't mean letting people back into your life. It means you no longer bleed when you think of them. If there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's that family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty. It's about who shows up when the world turns its back. It's about who claps for you when there's nothing in it for them. And sometimes, the family you build, the one made of friends, kindness, and love, is stronger than the one you were born into. Hazel and I, we still bake the same chocolate cake every year. Still hang balloons by the window. Still sing off key and laugh too loud. But now, there's a peace in the air. The kind that comes when you stop chasing revenge and start living for yourself. So if you've ever been betrayed by someone you called family, remember this: you can't control what they do. But you can control what you become after it. Let them carry the weight of their choices. You carry your peace because sometimes the greatest revenge is simply moving on and never looking back.